Hello, welcome everybody to another Facebook Live from Karen. So I hope you've all had a fabulous week, and I've got some really great questions again today. So loads have come in. If you've got any that you want to ask, so ask straight away. Put it down on this Facebook Live post. And I'd like to share this with your mother's group, with your friends, sisters, relations, sister-in-laws, whoever, somebody down the street, next door neighbour. I think it's a really great opportunity to get any questions asked and answered live. And now I've got people coming from all around the world to ask questions, as well as from Australia, so it's really exciting. I've had another little busy week, crazy week actually. I had Triska, my office angel, away. So I've been rather frantic all week. I've been trying to do phone calls, emails and everything. Triska is back today, so I am so happy. Unfortunately, I didn't manage to talk to her today and do a handover because I was just getting on top of my workload. So this morning, hi Belinda, I'm going to answer your question today. Hope you're well. So this morning I went into a daycare to look at a little boy called William Sleep. Now William is 9 months old and I've been to help him at home with his mummy probably about maybe a month and a half, 2 months ago. And William is of the very determined persuasion, like most of my babies are. So little William this morning, hi Kobe. Right, I'll answer that question for you, Kobe, no problem. So, little William, like I said, very determined. His mum has very red hair. She's Scottish, and William has a little tinge of red hair. He was the baby, when I went to an overnight stay, they had these frogs in the tank next to my couch, and I was so exhausted, I couldn't even manage to tap on the tank to shut the frogs up. All I managed to say was, shut up, frogs, shut up. That was William. So this morning I went into his daycare, beautiful daycare in Alexandria called Kiddie Academy. Beautiful daycare workers, really lovely environment and really happy children as well. So I felt very honoured to be invited there to them today and to be able to help them as well. And I think that's a sign of a really good daycare, that they don't mind somebody from outside coming in to help them. It's Mum's first day back at work today, so I'm sure she was a lot more relieved that we managed to get William sorted. So we got him down in the cot. He did shout his little head off for 20 minutes and he did pull Gratz's hair. She was the lady who is one of the daycare workers. So luckily I didn't get my hair pulled. I don't know how I didn't, but I didn't. Usually I do. But poor Gratzy got her hair pulled instead. So William is a very, very determined boy. So I'm wishing them good luck and Gratzy some good luck this afternoon for William's sleep, and I hope he's kind to them because he is a very strong personality. So that's just what I got up to this morning. And then I came back and did lots of phone calls and emails and everything and getting ready for today. So let me just get to my little questions. So I've just been doing some blogging and some writing. So, most importantly of all, last week we did a competition to win 10 lots of the Shapeys set. And as you remember from last week, the Shapeys sets are for the fine motor skills. They are a complete set that you can take away on holiday, on the plane, in the car. They are great because they're just self-contained and they're not fiddly, and there's glue there and there's crayons and everything is there, and there's a little envelope to put stuff in, and it teaches kids those really important fine motor skills. It works on numbers, on colours, all those sort of things, imaginative play and creative play. And I think Shapeys is fabulous, and they are in Nurture Parenting's online shop, and I'm very pleased to be associated with them and helping them. And I know they're going to do amazingly well because I've had lots of inquiries from occupational therapists about these who are jumping up and down with joy about them. So the winners are, and I've contacted most of the people today, but there are some that I didn't manage to get round to. So those that hear your name, if I haven't managed to contact you, then if you can just email in to us at karen@nurtureparenting.com.au. Oh, poor Riley, okay. Right, Jess. Keeping off to get straps Right, I'll talk to you sometime, Jess, about Riley. So, what was I up to? Yes, so those of you that I haven't managed to notify, if you can please send me an email to karen@nurtureparenting.com.au and just give me your address and your email, and these sets will be winging their way to you. So it's a really fabulous prize, and I'm so excited for you all. So winner number 1 is Emma Boyd. Yay for Emma. Winner number 2 is Michelle Campbell. Yay for Michelle. I'm sure Sophie will love these. Number 3 is Nicola Pittner, and I know that Felix is going to love these as well. Number 4 is Maria Mazanes. Number 5 is Carol Murray, or M-A-R-E, I think it's Murray. Number 6 is Karen Thornton with her little boy Thomas. I think it's Thomas. I'm sure it's the same Karen that I know. And 7 is Zena Edwards, so yay to Zena. 8 is Peter Crawford, yay to Peter. And number 9 is for Amy Moffat and her little man. And number 10 is for Amanda Chan. And Amanda just lives in the next block to me, so hi Amanda. And I know your little boy's got a little while to go before he's going to use this, but you can put it away, and I think it's going to be a fabulous little asset for his fine motor skills. So there you go, all 10 winners, which is so exciting. So I will notify Shapeys of your address and your email, etc., and they will be posted out to you directly. So how exciting, 10 prizes. So if you want to send Shapeys some love hearts, Shapeys and Karen will be most happy to have love hearts. We love hearts the most. I know it's shocking, always asking for love. But apparently, you know, we all need hugs and love every day, every week to get by. So I think the more love hearts and love and hugs that get sent out to everybody, the better it is. And those of you that will know me will know that I'm a very huggy sort of girl. But if you're not huggy, don't worry. I don't force myself on anybody, but I think hugs are really, really good. And I think it makes us all feel better. So there you go. I know, hugs. So the questions. Now, I'm not going to do a competition today because I've got a book to finish. And every time I do a competition, it takes me probably an hour of my week. So I'm really sorry, peoples. This week there is no competition, but there will be other competitions soon. So watch this space. I just felt it was time for a rest this week. You know what I mean? So I'm going to come on to the questions. Now I've got some seriously good questions, and I've had some seriously great situations, case studies recently. So I've had quite a few babies who have been waking up in the early hours. I'll give you a couple of these cases. Well, 3. I'll actually give you 3 of them. These are all within the past 2 weeks, and they're all linked together. And they also link in with an email I got from a mum called Alex as well. So it all links together nicely. So it's really like a change of season, and we're now in Australia and Sydney, we're moving into autumn. So it's starting to get cool at night times. And babies and children, they struggle with their temperature control. And did you know that babies and children lose their body temperature 3 to 4 times as much and as fast as what an adult does? And they can't problem solve to pull blankets up on themselves till they get to the age of over 3, 4, sometimes 5 even, some of them. And I know they refuse to put their clothes on, and I've had lots of discussions with mummies this week about, but my child doesn't like clothes, my child won't wear things. Well, we need to find a way around the problem, okay? Because if we just give in to them and allow them to do whatever, they're going to keep on waking up. And is that good for them? And is it good for you? Well, I don't think it is really. So we need to find something that they like. So I went to see a little girl called Amelia, and once we found the right sleepwear, Amelia was happy. But it's saying to them, do you want to wear this one or this one? You know, give them a choice as well, because then they feel in control. But we need to look at something that keeps them cool at the start of the night, but it gets warmer in the middle of the night. So things that are great for heat exchange are things like cotton, cotton bamboo mix, and then you've got merino wool. And as you know, I've got Hello Night Kids in my online store, and the beauty of Hello Night Kids is you can layer up and down, and then you don't have to buy just one sleeping bag and spend a fortune. You can just have the sleeping bag and layers, and then you can alter it for seasons as well. Then you can have it for summer, you can have it for spring, you can have it autumn, then you have it for winter. So it's just one sleeping bag and then layers, rather than a sleeping bag for winter and a sleeping bag for summer. I think it's really logical, is that. And it's very interesting. A lot of the companies now are getting these arm warmers too, which are good. But as you know, Hello Night Kids 2 has been developing a Gillett. It's a body warming vest. So I think this is going to be a real game changer. And I can't wait to see this getting used and seeing what happens, because sleepwear has been a massive issue with most of these kids. And I think many mums struggle because they go, it's really hot in the daytime, Karen, and it's really hot at bedtime, and I don't want to overheat them. And we're all frightened of overheating our children. But if we use the sleepwear that is breathable, that has no acrylic fibres in, there's no acrylic, there's no polyester, nylon, so it won't trap heat in. So if you use cotton bamboo mix, merino wool, they breathe, and they're all good with eczema as well. So that's all really important. So the fabric that we use is so important. And that core, that top half, that's what needs to be really warm. The bottom half doesn't matter as much, but top half definitely. And as you know, when it comes to winter, I love socks on kids in winter. If you've got cold feet, you can't go back to sleep. I'm actually sat here with my socks on right now because I've got a very cold floor. So practice what you preach, Karen. So what you put your kids on into wear is really important. Now, another big issue I've come across with these kids, so they were waking up, one little boy I went to help, he was waking up between 1 and 3 a.m. and he'd been sleep trained previously through a phone consult with me, and I went round to see what was going on, and he went down to sleep so easily at bedtime. So I was like going, what is this? What is the problem? He's 13 months old. I did look at his dinner and his main and dessert was a really healthy muesli bar. And I think this is where a lot of the problems are coming from, is that we're giving our kids this really healthy diet, because we look at our diet and we put the same thing onto them. So as most of you know, I worked in Manchester, in Salford, before I came to Australia. So we didn't really know what healthy food was too much over there in the north of England. Sorry, north of England, but it does tend to be a little bit true. And kids were getting fed meat pies, sausage rolls and things like that. And but it was, hi Amy, hi Kelly, but it was a really high fat diet. So I come over here to Australia. I'm particularly working in the eastern suburbs and inner west, and we're all very health conscious, which is good for us as adults. But it's not. I can hear a cat. I think I could be in trouble. Hope not. I have this cat called Ziggy who tends to photobomb this. I get very nervous now. So we tend to eat too healthy, and so I've gone from the pies and sausage rolls to suddenly the quinoa and the chia seeds and the organic and the brown rice and all the rest of it. And I've been looking at all these meals and going, where is the fat in here? Where's the carbohydrate? So we don't have the right balance of carbs and protein, so they need to be in balance, really important. Then kids are going to struggle with their sleep. So I tend to give a lot of yogurt by itself. Yogurt is a disaster for sleep, given by itself. Complete disaster, because it's really high in tyrosine. Tyrosine keeps kids awake. I think if parents knew that, they'd never give yogurt before bed. Disaster, okay? So we need to look at food combining. Does it tick all the boxes? Okay, I've even got Julie, who works with me, really paranoid about her little girl's food, and she sent me a picture today, and she wanted to know if it ticked all the boxes, and I did. I went tick, tick, tick. So it needs to be high in tryptophan. That's that lovely amino acid that I talk about so much. The turkey, the chicken, and it is things like porridge oats, it is wheat bix, it is cheese, it is avocado. It is things like nut pastes, all those things. So we need to look at that amount of tryptophan, and we need to have the low glycemic index carbohydrates, that balance. That is really key. So most of these meals were lacking in balance, okay? And the biggest thing all these meals were lacking in was fat. So I'm going to give you some stats now that are going to shock you. 80% of your child's brain is formed by the age of 2 years old. And the brain is made of fat. What does the brain need to grow? Fat. And so if we don't give our kids enough fat, and that's why we give a really high fat diet, high fat dairy till 2. In the UK they've changed that to 5 years old recently. And I'm a big believer that I think Australia will go this way as well. And all this low fat stuff that we did, it was a disaster, as probably most of you know, because then we just replaced it with sugar. And that's where a lot of these sugar problems have come from. So I'm a big fan of high-fat diet because I'm from the north of England. My other half will probably be smiling at this now. I know he's watching me today. I'm a fan of the hot cross bun, but I like to have butter in my hot cross bun. And my dad used to say to me, Karen, are you having bread with that butter? Or is it just having honey and butter with that bread? So I was really bad when I was growing up for loving butter. But I did come from the north of England. We needed extra insulation because it was very, really, really cold. And I was a very active child and teenager because my grandparents were farmers. I spent a lot of time on the farm and it was freezing. It was really, really cold. So there are things just to really think about. So fat, really important. Don't bother with marge. It's really full of those horrible trans fat blah-de-blahs. I've never been a fan of margarine. I think it's way overrated and not very healthy. So butter is the way to go, people. And yes, I went and bought a heap of hot cross buns last night. Probably too many. May need to go on a diet soon. But you know, all things in moderation. So, but I think things like adding butter to every meal, adding cream to every meal. If your child's dairy intolerant, then we're looking at things like coconut oil. We're looking at olive oil. We're looking at oily fish like tinned sardines in olive oil, tinned salmon in olive oil. Don't go for the spring water. Go for the in oil because kids need that extra fat. And fat has got double the calories of carbohydrate, which is like massive. So I looked at this meal last night and it was lovely. And, you know, Gabriella, she was really shocked. She didn't realise that the meal wasn't quite what it should be. And she said, oh, that's a meal for me, really, isn't it? And I said, yes, actually it is, Gabriella. And I find this all the time. So when I do a consultation, I go into food in a massive way. I look at exactly what kids are eating, what time they're eating it, how much they're eating. Michelle says, yes, just had hot cross buns and butter. I've been sampling all the ones in Sydney, Michelle, and can I just say, I think Coles has actually got the best hot cross buns. But a near second is the Black Star pastry place. They actually glaze those with a, I think it's myrrh or frankincense. Myrrh, I think it is. Was it frankincense, the glaze? Oh my goodness, they are divine. So if you're ever past the Black Star pastry, luckily my older two are addicted to cheese. Yes, Kobe. So cheese is amazing. Put grated cheese into all the savoury stuff. You know, the Kiwis, they have grated cheese in their pies. So when I went to New Zealand, I couldn't believe you get grated cheese in pies, which is like amazing. Yum. So, you know, look at how you can maximise that diet to get really high fat. Okay, these kids will not get overweight. You will not fur their arteries with fatty deposits. Okay, because it's good fat. Okay. It is not these horrible trans fats that we know that are not really good at all for children. So they need more calories than what you need as an adult. These kids should be eating as much as what an adult is eating, and I very, very rarely see that. So if kids are sleeping well, their appetite is through the roof. So the kids I see, because they're having such disturbed sleep, their appetite is really poor. So you've got to sort the sleep out to sort out the diet and the food. You can't do it the other way around. It's just not possible. And some of these kids I meet are having 6 to 8 breastfeeds at night time. A litre of milk in the middle of the night is quite a common thing for me to see. But when you're not sleeping, and it's the same for mums, your appetite's not great and you tend to binge on sugar and fatty things, but mainly sugar. And I know this myself, you know, I've had to wean myself off sugar at times in my life. I've done the I Quit Sugar diet. I did it for 3 months and it made me just realise how much I was addicted to sugar, because you replace sleep with sugar. And we need to look at sleep, because sleep is the cure-all for everything, for health, for everything. So that's a big thing I've come out of this week. So food, massive. Most of these diets I'm coming across when there's a sleep problem are really not conducive for sleep at all. And when you're looking at pouches, again, as you know, Karen really dislikes those pouches, most of them with a vengeance, because they are not nutritionally complete. They don't have the balance of carbs and protein, and they don't have enough fat in them. They're full of fruit and veg and sugar, and kids get really addicted to them. So I'd like to see more kids on proper food. You can make your own pouches with proper food, and you know, you could freeze them, so then you can have it, you know, for the convenience, but at least then you know what you're giving your children, and you know, then they'd sleep much better. So that is my big thing for this week, is fat, and lots of it in every meal, in every snack, I want you to think, does it tick all the boxes? Does it have tryptophan? Does it have the low glycemic index carbohydrates? Don't waste your time with white processed foods at all. Yogurt is way overrated, I'm afraid. If you do yogurt, give it as a smoothie with oats in and banana in, etc. Lots of recipes on my blog, lots of ideas on there for healthy desserts that promote sleep, for breakfast that promotes sleep, for other things that promote sleep. So it is actually all there in the blog. You'll be able to find it. In the future, maybe I'll do some recipes. Who knows? Maybe I'll do a recipe book that promotes sleep. That'll be a great idea. So that is all about what I came back last week. So this little mum called Alex, right, I'm going to go through this email she sent me because it's pretty typical of what I hear. So Alex and a 21-month-old little boy. Hi Karen, I've seen your name recommended many times on posts about baby sleep on Inner West Mums and North Shore Mums. And I was wondering if you'd be able to help us. We've had a long road. 1 day and 2 times 4 night stays at Tresillian Canterbury, plus a 3-night sleep consultant home visit. To get to a point with our 21-month-old, where he now puts himself to sleep about 7 p.m. and sleeps all night, most nights, unless sick or teething, which is amazing. That's absolutely fabulous. I'm really thrilled for you, Alex. You've obviously worked really, really hard at that. But he has been waking gradually earlier and earlier to the point where he now wakes at 4 a.m. most mornings. Eek. We've tried letting him cry a bit, trying to resettle him, lots of screaming until we get him up, getting him up to watch TV quietly. Basically, all he wants is boob and then to start the day. Even if he had a breastfeed and then snuggled and went back to sleep with us afterwards, that would be fine. But he finishes his feed, then rolls over and starts climbing and wanting to start the day. Trying to cuddle him at this point results in screeches of protest. We usually send Daddy down to try and resettle or deal with him at 4 a.m, but it makes no difference as he just wants me and the boob. So I come across this a lot. And they're very strong personalities, these kids, really strong temperaments. And they don't like to have things declined. They will shout till they get what they want. I don't really want to wean him from this last breastfeed, the only one he has now unless he's sick, unless we have to, but my husband thinks it is the main problem. We're exhausted and not looking forward to the daylight savings change, as then he'll be up at 3 a.m. Can you help us? What sort of services would you recommend for this problem? Thank you so much in advance, Alex. So I think your husband's right, Alex. I think giving him this feed is a problem, and he is 21 months old. So does he actually need this feed at 3-4 o'clock in the morning? I would say not. A baby at 6-7 months of age doesn't necessarily need a feed at that time of the morning. If you wanted to do several breastfeeds, then to me it's not an issue. But if you wanted to stop them, I'd look at ways that they don't need that feed. They need a long night's sleep, and your boobs and your breast milk could be better with a really good night's sleep. So everybody's better on sleep. So I would take that feed away. I'd do parental presence where you're going to sit by the cot, and each week you move on with the process till by week 6 you're in the doorway. You're going to sit by the cot, say nothing, pretend to be asleep. Don't pat, don't rub, don't even pat the mattress. You are asleep. Your eyes are closed and you are snoozing by that cot. Okay, so that's what needs to happen. It might take, a couple of weeks before you break this problem. It might take a month before you break this problem, but you will. But if you keep on doing what you're doing, I'm afraid your little boy, Alex, is going to keep on waking up. And then with having that one feed, that's going to reduce the actual food in the day. And then that's going to perpetuate the problem of the night waking because he's not having enough food to be able to sleep. So you've got to pull the rug and take that feed away, Alex, unfortunately. So the sort of help I'll be looking at, I'd look at a phone consult first with this sort of problem. I don't think it's a massive issue, but it will, if it gets left, it could get out of hand quite easily. So I've had kids having 6 breastfeeds, a litre of milk in the night time at this sort of age. I even had a child at 4.5 recently having 5 breastfeeds at night time. So if you leave it, children are not going to go, no, Mummy, you're so tired, let me just go back to sleep again. They're going to scream and scream and scream until they get it. And if you don't want to do that feed, don't do it, because 3 or 4 o'clock, to me, that's not morning. And like I say, it could get really out of hand with this, Alex. I'd do a phone consult. I don't think you need me in person to sort this out. Okay, so I hope that has helped. Gemma, yes, parental presence worked so well for us. 2 nights of pain and Harper was back to 6:30, yay! Yes, the sleep recipe book, says Lauren. Yes, I think it will come. So first the sleep book, and then we're on to other things. So exciting. So Bryony Evans. So Bryony asked me a question last week, and she's got a 6-month-old baby. So hi, Bryony. If you're here, hello. So she says, I have a question about how to transition a 6-month-old from swaddle suits at night time, which is a great question. Now, in winter, there's a really great sleep suit that transitions from the swaddle beautifully. And I discovered it last winter. It is called the Magic Merlin suit. Not soup. The Magic Merlin suit. Could be a soup. And it is very stiff with cotton. It's made of cotton, so it's very breathable. But the arms are literally sort of out like this. They can move them a little bit, but the sort of position so that they're out. And it just is a great transition suit from a swaddle right to no swaddle and a sleeping bag. And it's so important to move on from the swaddle between 4 and 6 months as soon as they're rolling. And they need to have their arms out and doing stuff. So I'm a fan of the Magic Merlin suit. As you know, Karen is not seduced by anything that overpromises and doesn't deliver. But I saw this work, so I was quite happy with it. And it's cotton, it's breathable. Maybe I should put it in my shop, I don't know. That might be something for the future. So I will talk to my online shop person and see what we can do with that. Because I think it is a really great sleep suit. Other thing to do is I would take away the swaddle at night time rather than take it away during the day to start with. You can take one arm out. You can get those upstream do the swaddle thing where you take, undo one arm, or you unzip it, one arm in, one arm out. I'm a bit of a fan of doing it all in one night, but that's just me. Not everybody likes to do things all at once. I just think if you want to go through a bit of pain, do it quickly, get it over with quickly. To me, it's like taking the sticking plaster off bit by bit by bit versus going, pew. I'm a bit of a fan of doing that. Because I think doing bit by bit is actually more painful over long term. But that's just me. But at 3 to 4 months, babies know they've got hands, they can self-soothe with their hands, and that's what we need to teach them to do. So the longer we leave them in a swaddle suit, the bigger problem we have. And I had a baby at 7 months of age, having a swaddle suit still. And had to get him out of the swaddle suit because obviously he was rolling over. And I took him out, both hands out, and he completely freaked because he had bare hands. He didn't know how to soothe himself with these bare hands. He was like, And so I had to get my creative little thinking head on. And what I did was I put socks on his hands. So you can put socks on. If he's going to pull them off, put micropore around the actual wrist so that it can't. So micropore is like a surgical tape. Get from the chemist. It's hypoallergenic, safe. Okay, so you could use that to keep the socks on, and over 2 weeks what we had to do was gradually cut more and more holes in the socks till eventually he had bare hands and he was sucking on his fingers. But what a palaver. So it is much better if you can get rid of the swaddle suit at the right time, which is around 4 months. I'm a fan of 3 months personally. But if their startle reflex is really strong, then you might want to leave it till 4 months, but that startle reflex should have gone away by about 4 months of age, particularly if your baby is self-settling properly. If your baby's not self-settling, that's probably why babies are swaddled for a long time. I'm not sure what your situation is, Bryony, but we're managing startle problems because we've got overtired babies. Whereas if we do baby sleep learning and prevention, we tend to not have that startle reflex problem. So it is a problem that I've come across in Australia. I didn't come across it in the UK, so because we prevented the problem. And if any of you have read my book, Help I'm a New Mum and I Don't Know What to Do, about baby sleep learning, that is the reason why. So I'm not going to go into it because there's plenty of blogs out there about baby sleep learning and what used to happen in England. But it's just really interesting to look at why we swaddle for so long over here in Australia. And we are sort of like keeping kids back with their self-soothing skills, with their rolling over skills, developmental skills. And we need to move babies on at the right time, because if they're not able to roll over, they can't sleep through really easily because they can't get comfy. So teach them how to roll over, really, really crucial. I'd start that around 3 to 4 months as soon as the head lag has gone. I'd recommend the baby yoga style video on YouTube. So I think it's the better way of teaching rolling over, because that rolling over video, it helps with the vestibular, the balance system. Whereas the one on the floor, it tends to jar the balance system, the vestibular system. So they're things I would look at there, Bryony. So from a little question has come a big answer, so I hope you like that. So next I'm on to Brooke and Alba. And I said to Brooke that I would send her an email. So what I've actually done, Brooke, is I've actually written you a blog instead. So I started getting my thinking head on this weekend, and I'm going to publish it hopefully tonight when I get back from my visit. So Brooke asked me a question about Alba was biting her nipples and biting them hard. Ouch. I can't imagine much worse than nice little baby teeth. There's very razor sharp, biting on a nipple. Anyway, and Alba is a very determined baby. I know Miss Alba very well. So you're going to have to be careful how we manage this, Brooke. You're completely right. So we need to sort of take her off and say no to her and mean no. And when we say no, we don't smile, we don't laugh. Because once we smile and laugh, she thinks it's a game and she'll do it again and again and again. So we say no. But we'll try not to do a big ouch. And because that can upset them. And then that can create a bit of breast refusal as well. So we've got to be really careful as to how we say this no. That we mean the no for definite. And it's, like I say, you poke her face and you mean it. Okay? And do not let her go back on until she stops the biting. She might cry a bit. That's okay. She needs to learn that this is just not okay for her mummy. So there's a lot of reasons why babies bite. Nipples, they bite because they've got teeth and it's fun and the texture and everything. That's one reason. They bite as well because of the flow. Sometimes you've got too much flow. Other times you haven't got enough flow. So it's about how fast it comes out or doesn't. So sometimes they bite if it's not coming out fast enough. So what you can do is just express a little bit off if you've got too much flow, or just express a little bit off just to get that flow happening and that letdown happening. Other reasons that babies can bite is because the milk taste has changed if you've got your period. But they're the main reasons, really. It is a stage thing, and they're just exploring boundaries, and it is very, very common. So I've written you a little blog, Brooke. So better than an email, I think, but it only took me a week to get around to it, so I'm so sorry, but I did get there in the end. Okay, so I hope that's helped you, and hello up there in near Newcastle to Brooke and Alba. And I hope Alba is sleeping well and being kind to her mama. Okay, yes, Kobe, early morning wakings are such a nightmare. They are horrible, and they are really hard to resettle. But the best way is the food thing. The more fat, the more food that you can get into your baby. And resettling, unfortunately, you have to do it. It's the only way that message is going to get through. It'll take 1 to 2 weeks of pain, but when you're really consistent, it will happen. I know it will. But you have to take the rug away to take that feed away. But how you do the resettling, really important. Just wait a few minutes, 3 minutes of crying, then go in and sit by the cot. Don't pat, don't rub, and try not to take out too much, if at all. So I would tend not to do too many cuddles, if any. So, right, on to Nikki. Hello, Nikki, in the Southern Highlands with Lachlan. And Nikki's worked really hard on her baby's sleep, and I've known Nikki for a little while. I went to meet her recently when I did a little trip down there to Bowral. And she's doing a great job with Lockie. And she did some sleep work initially when I think he was about 3 months old. And I've just done this work through phone consults, through email and through face-to-face. So it can be done. Hey Karen, I have a question for your Facebook Live. If you have the chance, it would be greatly appreciated. No problem, Nikki. All good. Lachlan is 9.5 months old now. So wow, some time has gone by and sleep training is going really well, but I'm still in the process of making my way out of the room. On 2 occasions, developmental stages have sent me backwards with sleep training at 6 months and 8 months. And this is really common with boys. Could you let me know what the next developmental stage will be that could see some changes to Lachlan's sleep, and what changes I would need to implement, if any, to continue my progress towards putting him in his cot and having him self-settle without me being in the room? Thank you. Great question, Nikki. So, as I mentioned before, we do parental presence, particularly with babies, sometimes over 6 months, 7 months, certainly 8 months. At this age, I'd definitely be doing parental presence with him. So under 6 months, I do a different method. Over 6 months, I either do a check-in method or I do the sit-in by the cot thing. It depends on the baby, depends on the cry, depends on the sleep associations, depends on lots of things. So the next developmental stage is going to do a big change, will be around 18 months. So between 16 and 18 months, that's when he's likely to flick his switch, if at all. I get some kids when they start daycare, if a new sibling comes along, that's when they also flick their switch as well. So they're just things to be aware of, but it's that last wonder week, that 16 to 18-month-old one, that boys don't cope with very well. So I wrote a blog about sleep training and gender, and when I would and when I wouldn't do sleep training. Basically, there is no age I wouldn't do it, but there are some ages more than others. and Michelle Alifano knows this, are chia seeds fatty? Yes, Michelle, they are fatty. They've got omega-3 and omega-6 in. But we still need some more fat, as well as chia seeds. But Michelle had a little boy called Charlie, and Charlie is 7.5 months old, and he's one of my hardest cases. So he belongs in my top 10, does Charlie. And he went on for 3 hours and 9 minutes one night. So he was a big case, as Michelle knows. But all babies can be helped, and it is doing things in a kind way. I think parental presence is an extremely kind way. You know, Dr. Howard Chilton likes this method. And yeah, yogurt and chia seeds are fine. I'd put some oats in there as well, Michelle. Yes, Michelle, I know. You see, don't you like to hear that Charlie, he was challenging? How's he doing? How's Charlie doing at the moment, Michelle? Is he doing well? Has your husband, has Chris got him sorted? Yay! Tell Chris, fist pump from me. And a high five and everything else. Fabulous. Well done. Yeah, Charlie was a persistent resistant. So I know a lot of these persistent resistants. They're very cute. Yes, we're getting there. Love it. Tell Chris, excellent. I could employ him, couldn't I? I don't think he'd want to do my job. Much better, thank you. That's okay, Michelle. I was on the phone to Michelle one night, and the husband was in the room next door, and Michelle was giving me a running commentary about what was happening, and it was like... 3 hours, yeah. Yes, Sandra, we did. I've had 2 boys at 7.5 months of age that went for 3 hours and 9 minutes. And they killed me, both of them. It takes a lot to really wear Karen down, but they do. I had a little girl the other night, went for a 2.5-year-old, went for 3 hours. And I had to send, Mum went out first of all because she was crying. And then Dad went out because I had to send him out because they were so enmeshed with the parents in the behaviour of the little girl, and she was in control in that house. It was really obvious to me what was going on, and I don't like throwing asking any parents to leave a child's room, but it was not working with them in there, and they got themselves in such a situation. This child was waking up 6-7 times at night time, and they were just completely exhausted. She had a dummy, but the dummy wasn't the problem. The dummy was the fact that she loved getting serviced. And the more service that she got, the more service she wanted. So the babies that I meet, parents start off doing attachment parenting sometimes. They end up in the bed with them. But it works out with the type of children I see to be a complete disaster in most situations. So some babies can attachment parent and share the bed easily. Children I know don't. They don't want to be in the bed with the parent. They want to be in the cot. And the parents say this, that they want to do it this way, but the child actually wants to be in the cot, and it's just like, oh my goodness. So I see some complete wrecks of parents, poor parents. But this little girl, she could kick ass, that's for sure. But she only woke up once that night, in the middle of the night, and she was asleep within 20 minutes, and I don't think she was actually awake. I think it was a nightmare or a night terror she was having. She didn't actually look like she was awake. But in the middle of it all, you're going to laugh at this. This little girl, she started singing Waltzing Matilda to me. Waltzing Matilda, I ask you. I'm thinking, this is sleep training. It is not Waltzing Matilda time. I was just like, wow. So they have a real repertoire, but we heard everything. We heard all about Ariel. We heard all about Christmas. We heard all about the purple sippy cup and the orange sippy cup and the purple one and the orange one and the purple one and the orange one. The dummy was like a side issue. It really was not a fixture at all, and yet you'd have thought that had been the problem. Not at all. It was everything else. But the vocabulary on her, the words, oh my goodness, was just incredible. It really was. And you just sit there, you go, 3 hours of my life, I'll never get back again. Those poor parents. She was so determined. But Karen, as all of you know, that there is equally as determined, but kind as well. So having those two qualities has helped me and helped parents everywhere. And these kids always get worse before they get better. So Mum didn't have an easy night last night. I would anticipate that, because it's not going to come good just like that, unfortunately, because that behaviour has been there for that long. So Nikki with Lachlan, well done for you doing this early. And I think what would be a really interesting blog to write would be, how long does it take to do things at what ages? So how long does it take to sleep train at what ages? And how much crying is involved? Because once I discussed that with parents, I said, right, if you've done it at this age, that would have happened. If you've done it at this age, that would have happened. Do it at this age, that would have happened. So, you know, I think if parents have that information, call, because I'm just trying to ring me, just a little bit busy at the moment. Right, so next I'm going to come on to Renee, and then I'm going to come on to the rest of the questions that people have sent in today. And Kristen Beckett has got me a question, a tips for a 2-year-old when a new baby arrives. Great question, Kristen, and yes, I do have an amazing blog on that as well. So I was going to come back to Renee Panischetti, and 11-month-old, and I think it's a little girl. Yes, little girl. Hi Karen, hope all is well. I have a question for today's chat, if that's okay. We are travelling to Indonesia for a 10-day holiday in a few weeks. They are 2 hours behind. Was wondering if you have any tips on how to deal with the time difference and potential very early morning wake-ups from our 11-month-old. Since daylight savings has changed, she's gone from waking at 6 to waking at 5, goes to bed at 6:30. Can't seem to get her to sleep later in the morning, wakes up so grumpy. Any tips? Thanks so much. And you're totally right, Renee. Great question to ask, and I think it's good to ask it now before you go away, because you've got a little while, a few weeks, you said. So you could actually make a big change with this before you go away, and I think that would really help. So is your baby self-settling? Can she put herself down awake in the cot? And does she resettle, or do you feed her in the night? That's something that I'd like to know. If she's able to go down by herself and goes down awake and there's no dummy involved, yada, yada, yada. And she's proper self-settling without anything, without you touching her, holding her to sleep, feeding her to sleep. Yeah, self-settle's great, Renee. Thank you for answering me that. Hello, Brooklyn, by the way. Hello, with Miss Albert. I answered your question before, Brooke, so I hope you liked the answer. Down on her own, no feeds at night, says Renee. Yeah, excellent. Right, this shouldn't be too hard to sort out. It is going to take a bit of persistence on your part. So when she wakes at 5 o'clock, is your room really, really dark? Is it so dark you can't see your hand in front of your face? Because that is really key with this, because at 5 o'clock, melatonin's at its lowest, and if light gets in, hits the brain, lowering melatonin, yeah, it's really dark. So dark you can't see your hand in front of your face? Yeah, presume that's a yes from Renee. Then we need to look at diet, okay? So we're looking at those foods high in tryptophan. Yep, excellent, Renee. Foods really high in tryptophan. I'd give her something banana-based and brown rice, or banana and some French toast or pancakes before going to bed. So I'd do main and dessert. We've all got a corner for dessert in our little tummies. Like I said, Karen's a little fan of the hot cross bun at the moment. So you could do little pancakes, little pikelets, and you could spread them with an organic cacao and peanut butter from Maver's. They do a great one if you don't want to do Nutella. And you could do something like, you could put butter on your little pikelets to add some extra calories to it there. You could even put, you know, if you don't mind, a bit of agave syrup or some maple syrup. I'm sure they'd go down very well. But if you make your pancakes or pikelets with wholemeal flour, that will tick a lot of boxes. Go some caramelised bananas. Half an hour before bed, excellent. Right, so then Renee, we need to do some resettling. So she ain't gonna like it, because once they wake up, we feed them, we take them out for a cuddle, that's it, it's set that alarm clock. So I want you to wait for 3 minutes of constant crying, no pauses, no gaps, no silences, okay? If there are pauses, reset the clock, and a pause is between 5 and 20 seconds. So I want you to go in, I want you to sit on the chair, do not talk to her, it'll feel really odd, but it is all fine, I promise. Go in, sit in a chair by the side of the cot, sideways on, put your hand on the mattress, not on her, and I want you to sit there till you've got her back to sleep again, or it gets to... Anna, hi Anna, yes, just hang on, questions coming in, all sorts coming in. Right, so I want you to wait till it gets to either 6 or 7 o'clock. So morning does not start before 6, even 5:45 I don't accept. So I've got many kids back to sleep by resettling. So I want you to go for at least, you know, if it's 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock, an hour. So most kids will not give in if you resettle for under 1 to 2 hours. And I know it feels like it's mean. It is not mean, because when they get up at 5 o'clock, they're so whingy, and then it means an early nap, it means early everything, and they're just so whingy through their day, and it affects development and everything. So I'm a big fan of the resettle. Do I like resettling? No, I don't like resettling at all, because it feels mean, like I say, but it's not mean. So I've learned to become at peace, become at one with the resettle. You know, not everything that I do, I love. but I know what's good for babies and children. And I think that's really important to have that conversation, to say, look, I don't like this either. You know, I don't enjoy sleep training. I love the results it gets, but I don't enjoy when babies are upset and they're crying and mummies and daddies are upset. And, you know, it is a very, very hard job that I do, and it's very emotional. But you cannot harm her, Renee, I promise, okay? What sort of volume of food is she eating as well? I want to know just sort of what sort of volume. I want to give her a snack mid-morning, a snack mid-afternoon, and again, the carb, the low GI carb, and the high fat as well. So I'd want some Philadelphia cream cheese, some avo, on some wholemeal toast with butter on. Like I say, ladle the fat on there, the calories, the protein, and the low GI carbs. They're things that are going to really help sleep. Feed to appetite. Too often I go in a house and the food has gone from the dish or from the high chair tray, and yet their child hasn't closed their mouth and stopped, and parents are frightened of overfeeding. You can't overfeed. It is really rare to overfeed a child. So they're not like adults who emotionally eat or eat just because hot cross buns are nice. No, children actually do. Babies will stop when they've had enough. They will tell you. So keep on feeding that child until they really have had enough. Always give milk feeds and food about an hour apart, because that way you're going to maximise the amount of food you can get in. So I'd always give food first, and then I'd do milk feeds at least an hour after any solids. Always eat with them. Yeah, that's a big thing from this week. Parents, the ones I've seen this week, have not been eating with their children at all. When you sit down and eat, and they say, well, I don't want to eat a full meal, Karen. You don't have to eat a full meal. All I'm saying is chop a piece of cucumber up, chop some fruit up, and just put it on the child's high chair tray and eat some things with them. So then we're modelling behaviour. We're in participation with the child. When you eat their food off their high chair tray, they will eat 25% more food, and then they're going to sleep longer. So just those little changes about eating with them. You don't need to eat really high calorie stuff. You don't need to eat all the stuff that's really high in fat. The child just needs to see you eat and pick things up with your hands. Because when we pick things up with our hands, when we model behaviour, they eat so much more. A little baby called Ava who was food throwing, and Ava was food throwing because mummy was cleaning up in the kitchen. So we need to actually sit with them, be with them, not on our phones, and just be there in the moment. Model behaviour. Eat with your children, please. Give them the spoon. I've also seen a bit of force feeding this week, unfortunately, as well, and that made me feel a little bit ill. I don't like anything like that. I like children to be in control and allowed to do what they want to do, because they are so much happier. I know mummies get worried that they haven't had enough food, so that's why the spoon comes out. But I've seen kids growling this week and being really, so can we please not force feed? It would just make me a lot happier. And that way your kids will actually get a lot more food. So them are my real top tips of please eat with her all day. Resettle Renee as well. And I think that's where you're going to get to your utopia for your holiday. Now when you go away on your holiday to Indonesia, just in case the room is not dark where you're going to be, take some tin foil with some masking tape, and then you can make those windows dark. That's really, really crucial, because if you go away and it's too bright, disaster. I would also look at, those Fly Baby, they're now called Cozy Go, that fits over the stroller to make that really dark as well. Oh, hi, it's my cousin Tracy from over in England, in Yorkshire. Hi, Tracy. This is so weird, isn't it? I got to see all sorts of people on Facebook Live. It's so exciting. How's your little girl going, Tracy? Is she going good? Oh, that's so exciting. I come from a massive, massive family of cousins. Everybody helped there. So I have about 21 cousins that are all married with children. My dad was one of 9 children. No, they're not Catholic. I think just didn't have TV in those days. So huge, huge family, and really lovely family. And I do miss them all, and I haven't seen them all for a very long time. So I love it how they follow me. Oh, they all follow me on Facebook Live, which is so exciting. It's a bit weird when your family follows you, but in a nice way. Hi, because oh, she's fab. Thank you. Great. I'm really pleased. Things are going really well, Tracy. Oh, she's very, very cute. I know that Georgia really loves her. So exciting. So Renee, they're the tips that I'll be looking at. I'll be looking at foods high in tryptophan to help her get to sleep. If you give things like bananas, avocado, wholemeal things, wheat bix, porridge oats, an hour before a nap, an hour before bed, it maximises their getting to sleep. So I'll be looking at food as the key for this time difference thing, because food is going to really help you to navigate that 2 hours. Because the more you can get into her, the better she's going to sleep as well. But but I'll be working on the resettling. Dipty, hi! Right, I'm going to answer that question in a moment, Dipty, for you. So I hope that's helped, Renee, and I hope you have a fabulous time. So let me know how you go with all this resettling. Right, let's come back to everything else. Right, Julie sent me some stuff through. So Bryony, I've done Bryony, yes, Brooklyn, yep, Bianca, yep, I covered that last week. Jess says, hi Karen, Riley's back on CPAP for all sleeps and naps, but I'm having huge issues with keeping it on. He's figured out how to get the straps off and now thinks it's a game. Aha. So Jess, her little boy Riley has got really bad reflux and he's had sleep apnea. So it's been a big journey here. And I picked it up when he was very young. I think he was only just a matter of a few weeks old. And Jess has been through, like I said, big stuff. So I will talk to you, Jess, separately and see what I can come up with Master Riley. Obviously, he's of the very clever variety, like most of them are. So hi to Jess. So Kobe says, my little one just turned 4 months and she's still waking 3 to 4 times a night, roughly every 2.5 to 3 hours, wanting a feed. I don't mind a couple of feeds, but starting to get pretty tired. I have a 2-year-old and 3-year-old too. Should I just suck it up until she starts to stretch out on her own? Or is there something I can do to encourage her to sleep a bit longer? Great question. She's been self-settling since 3 weeks and is a good, healthy 7+ kilos. Thanks. Absolutely, Kobe. I would do some resettling. I would look at what feeds you think that are really good feeds. And it's a pleasure, Renee. Look at what feeds are really good feeds and resettle the other ones. So if she's only going 2.5 hours since the last one, I'd resettle that feed that is the really, the one that's near that last one. And then I'd keep the next one and I'd resettle that other one. Okay, if that makes sense. So say if you did one at maybe 9, and then she had another one at 11:30, and then she had another one at about 2:30, and another one say at 5 o'clock. So I'll be getting rid of this one here, which would be the 11:30 one. But then if she's fed at 7, you're going to decide, you're going to do that one, you're going to do that one. So once they get to 5 months of age, I'd resettle all feeds up to midnight, and then I'd only feed one feed after midnight. Some people might find that controversial, but it works, and babies should have started solids hopefully, and we need to look at food starting to become more important, because food is the thing that's going to get these babies sleeping, their brains growing and developing. So milk is good, yes, but food is more important, certainly from 6 months of age for these babies, so we need to really start to get that into the picture. So I would definitely be doing some resettling, Kobe. I think 4 feeds is slightly of the cheeky variety. Some mums might not think so, but I think it is. I don't think babies do need that amount of feeds. Do plenty of feeds in the day. Have you started, is she 4 months old yet? Just turned 4 months. Right, I'd start food soon. Okay, that's not going to be the solution. The solution's going to be the resettling. And when you resettle, it's just the same way as what I mentioned in the book that you've got. So wait your 3 minutes, go in, just put your hand on, and you'd be surprised how quickly you could get a baby to resettle. Most babies will resettle within about 15-20 minutes. Okay, you're going to get some shouting. She's not going to like this. Try not to pick out the cot too much, just try and put your hand on. Okay, she does get very shouty, yes, pick her up, just no more than 30 seconds, and then pop down. But limit the amount of cuddles, don't do too many. Only take her out if she's absolutely really going for it. And I think that you should get some success within a week, Kobe. So let me know how you go. I'm going to wave my wand over your way. Alrighty. But yes, at 7+ kilos, she is thriving and doesn't need all those feeds. And you've got 2 other kids. You need to sleep, love. I'm on your side. Okay, so hi to Kobe. And Melinda. Hi, Karen. 17-month-old Ellie is a great sleeper overnight, but day naps have been getting shorter over the past month, both at daycare and at home. Her one-day nap is 30 to 40 minutes. She goes down at around 12:30. I try to resettle when at home, but it never works. Is this brief nap all she needs now? At night, Ellie is asleep around 7 and wakes around 6:30. So she's having 11.5 hours. So that'll be 12 hours in total in the day. Anything different you'd recommend trying? What I want to know, Melinda, is what is her mood like? Does she wake up happy from this nap in the day? Does she get to bedtime in a happy state? Does she wake up in the morning happy? So if you say yes to all those questions, then I'm happy with the amount of sleep that she's having. However, I would be looking at the food angle, and I'd be looking at keeping at the food in the day as well. Looking at what we're actually giving her before she goes down in the day, and maximising the fat in that diet, and I would have main and dessert, because we've all got a corner for dessert. So that's what I would look at, Melinda. So I hope that's helpful, and hello to you. So now we are on to Kristin Beckett. Hi, Kristin. So what tips do you have for a 2-year-old when a new baby arrives? And 2-year-olds, it is quite a tricky age. Yeah, food at home's on track, Melinda. Mostly cranky after naps, but happy at other times. Okay. Can she stay happy from the afternoon to bedtime? If she can, I'm happy with that. But she should be waking happy, really. So I'd say she's just a little bit behind with that nap. It's worth a bit of resettling. And I would do up to half an hour to an hour of resettling. She won't like it, but as we know, your little girl doesn't always like what's good for her, so she's always a slightly challenging thing. Yes, just cranky when waking, but happy till bedtime. If she is, then I'm happy with that. That's okay, Melinda. It's, you know, being a parent, these babies and sleep, it's all a work in progress. It's never just that's it, unfortunately, and it always needs working on, and it is hard. The first couple of years, not easy. But then, I guess life's not easy, is it? So, Kristin says, what tips do you have for a 2-year-old when a new baby arrives? So, I think preparing them a little bit in advance, but just talking about it maybe a week before it's going to come along. They don't really understand, don't babies, the concept of a new baby at 2. It's all a bit out there and too much for them. So I think we tend to go into too much explanation to kids nowadays. So I'd like to keep it really, really simple. It's good to read a book to them about when a new baby arrives. And I know Sally from Home and Away, I can't remember her proper name, her unstaged name, but I know she wrote a book about as a baby mummy's tummy. There's a few other good books out there about those sort of things. I think it's good to just start to introduce that little concept, to get a stroller and with a dolly in it, or to have a little sling with a little dolly in it, because then she's got her own little baby and you've got your baby. When baby comes along, and if your baby's going to be born in hospital, have baby in the cot when she comes into the room, so it doesn't look like you've replaced her with a newer, better model, because that's often what kids think. Get a toy, get a little gift wrapped up for her to give to the baby, and then a gift from the baby to her. Okay, so it becomes a real special thing, that this is your special little sister or brother, and they're very excited to meet you. And this is a little present that they've got to welcome into the family. And I think just let her go at her pace. Don't really push her. You can get involved in the day with things like bathing and nappies and stuff. Use labelled praise for good, gentle behaviour with the child. So, because often kids are at that age a little bit on the rough side because they're not sure about what to do with this baby. And like I said, they're testing boundaries at 2. But I wouldn't go into too much explanation. Expect there to be some acting out. Expect to see some escalation. That's when sometimes sleep and behaviour can escalate a little bit. Lots of blogs on there, and there's also a blog on there, Kristin, about how to introduce the sibling to the new baby as well. But it is something that every parent worries about, and I think just don't make a big thing of it. So when we make a big thing of it, that's when it tends to go a little bit wrong. And at 2, they don't really have a concept of time. So you might think it's really exciting. They probably won't think it's all that exciting, unfortunately. But I think having a doll for her with a little bassinet, a stroller and a little sling, then she can just model the behaviour of what you're doing. When you're with baby at home and feeding, bring her in close. You could read a little book to her while you're feeding the baby, so it's like a bit of special time for her. And having special time can be really, really helpful. So exciting, Kristin. So congratulations, and I hope it all goes well. And Amy says, Maddie is 6 weeks now. Oh, yeah, 6 weeks now. She's going down and greeting the bassinet with every sleep. Fine, no crying. But last few days, her day sleeps have only been for 45 minutes to an hour. She tries to resettle when we go in and resettle. I think we make her worse. She fights it. Do we continue to resettle with hand on chest? When we settle, it can take over an hour. She's still not settled back, and she's still not settled back to sleep. Babies under 3 months sometimes can't put 2 sleep cycles together, so I wouldn't worry too much about that, Amy. I'll try a little bit of resettling, but I wouldn't make a big meal of this. When she gets the message, she'll just do it naturally. So I would just go with whatever you can do. I think when she gets to 3 months, definitely resettle. But at this age, I'm happy for you not to resettle necessarily. Okay, and particularly if she's getting up and she's happy, you know, it's more about when you put her down. That's the key with how long she's going to sleep for. So it's more to do with the timing thing. So she should be going down for sleep by about an hour and a quarter to an hour and a half. I want to see a few tired signs, but that's going to be your key there, Amy. But well done. You'll get there. Hard work pays off, love. And obviously baby massage as well. I've got to send you the book, I haven't done the video. Sorry, Amy. I will send that right away as soon as I finish this. Dipty, hi Karen. What finger foods are okay for my 7-month-old? You're determined little mate, Dev. As you've heard, Dipty, I know a lot of these determined ones. I don't know any other type of baby. I never get to see them. He gags on mushy veggies when he feeds himself, so I freak out and start giving them to him altogether. And I think every parent worries about the gag thing and the gag reflex. You need to get through that, and the gag is protective, and so it helps with moving them on with speech development. So they need to go on to lumpy stuff at 7 months of age, but finger foods are going to be your friend. So just put things onto Cruskits and like avocado, Philadelphia cheese, whatever, all sorts of things. I've even put oven roasted pumpkin or sweet potato onto Cruskits as well. So the Cruskit can be great because it's big. The bigger the bit of food, the better. But what finger foods for a 7-month-old would I give? So Cruskits, like I say, with spread with avocado or Philadelphia cream cheese. I'd also look at things like French toast. So it's like egg and cream, and you can use brioche and pan fry it. That would be fine to give. I'd look at things like cucumber sticks that you cut into little strips. I'd look at things like sliced tomato. I would look at some grated cheese. I'd look at a banana. And you can give like a half a banana or just a whole banana. The avocado, you can even give avocado in its actual shell, and then will actually suck it off the skin and make sure it is quite ripe. Other things that I would give for sort of finger foods, I'd be looking at things even like frittata, omelette, scrambled eggs, because they're all really soft foods. We need to start off on soft things first. Oven roasted pumpkin, so oven roasted root vegetables, if oven roasted in olive oil, they're all great for finger foods, and have bigger bits rather than smaller bits. So when we give smaller bits, they tend more to gag and choke on stuff. Things that kids do choke on are things like popcorn, which I don't think anybody would give popcorn. Baby chinos with the marshmallows, so baby chinos are a big choking hazard. Cherry tomatoes, olives and cherries, you should always cut those into quarters, same with grapes as well. So always cut them. Never ever give a whole grape or a whole olive or a cherry tomato. Cut them in at least half, if not into quarters. Frankfurters you can choke on as well. Lollies you can choke on. Nuts you can choke on. Like I said, it tends to be little bits of stuff. Hard apple, hard carrot, they're big choking hazards. Bread, I wouldn't give bread as a first food. Cruskits are fine because Cruskits actually melt to mush in your mouth, so Cruskits you're safe with. Test it yourself. So anything you eat yourself you think, oh, I could possibly choke on that. Not a great idea. So be careful with steak. And steak that's a bit, not great steak, I'd cook it medium rare. Same with lamb cutlets. So they're things that I would try first. At 7 months, you can even give things like chicken drumsticks to your little man as well. If you're looking at Indian food, and I'll be looking at things like pakoras, onion bhajis, which is yum, 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 yum. I'd also be looking at Bombay potatoes and all those lovely little yummy, yummy, yummy Indian foods. So things that are quite big, get hold of, which I think, things like lentil patties, all that sort of stuff. But that's where I'd be starting, Dipty. So I hope that's helped. Now Tracy, last but not least, my cousin Tracy. Hi Tracy. So have been weaning Taylor for a week and a half. And by weaning in England, we mean moving on to solids, because in Australia that means stopping breastfeeding. So it has a completely different connotation in England to what it has in Australia. So I've been weaning Taylor for a week and a half, and she won't accept anything other than pureed food yet. I'm expecting too much, too soon. She gags on finger foods and spits them out, and also gags and spits on mashed food. Is she just not ready to move on? She's 25 weeks old now. So 25 weeks, 5, 5 to 25. So she's not quite ready yet, Tracy. When she's exactly, Karen's maths is rubbish. When she's exactly 6 months old, then I'll be looking at some of the things that I just explained to Dipti about. I'll be looking at things that are really soft. I've got a heap of videos on YouTube. They were my earlier little attempts at YouTube and videos. So you can have a good laugh at them, Tracy. I even give a weather report in one of them. But it's things like oven roasted root vegetables, pumpkin, butternut squash, sweet potato. They are great things to give as first finger foods. I'd also be looking at things like I said, your cucumber sticks, tomato that you've cut into pieces as well. But just have a look at my YouTube video, banana. Banana's a great one. You can't choke on banana, but expect the gag reflex to happen. There's a great video in there of Oscar and the gag reflex. I think about 50-odd thousand people have seen that video. That's how much the gag reflex panics every parent. So always remember, a gag is noisy and a choke is silent. So if they're gagging and it sounds really horrible, then that is a gag and it's protective, and it goes away around 9 months of age. Try to keep your face straight and don't worry about it, but it does look a bit revolting, I know, but it's just part of their speech development. So hope things go well, Tracy. All good up there in Leeds, and I hope you're keeping well, and say hi to Auntie Dot for me, and yeah, say hi to Georgia and everybody, and Auntie Sheila if you see anybody. So bye from Australia and bye from Karen, and that's it for another Facebook Live. Yay!